Boom.
Hey!
That's how you freaking do.
Hey, should we bring this up so we can see the comments here?
No, that's over there. I already set it up. I already blew it, gang. That's why I went over to this computer and set up.
We're getting there. We're getting there.
How is everybody doing?
Listen, I know we've been back a couple weeks now, but it's still the new year, all right? 1 week, okay? And we're talking about some exciting things, though.
Sue us, you know, why not? Huh?
Please don't sue us, actually.
We can take it. Not emotionally or financially, but physically, we will get through it. Boom. That's how you do. Welcome.
That's how you do. Oh,
Hot Fuzz Part 2. This is an old link you have open. Gang, we're watching Punisher this weekend. Buckle up, 10 a.m. tomorrow. People already said reviewing. Guess what I read? Spoilers. Really quick, it's a heavy spoiler. John Bernthal's attractive.
Oh, yeah, I mean, yeah.
That's what I've been hearing so far.
I mean, yeah.
Even when he's like beat the shits, it's like...
Yeah, but he's good looking.
It's like his face is sculpted.
Yeah. I like it, though, because he looks like the Punisher, man. He's just got that... I don't know. Honestly, the more distance we get from those Netflix shows, the more I'm like, you could recast him. Not him, though.
Yeah, he's really good.
Charlie Cox is great as Matt Murdock, but you could probably get another great actor. But like, I just don't think this generation of actors, you can get a better Punisher than John Bernthal. I don't think they exist right now.
I could see who you'd go for, but I don't think it's the right call.
Who?
I think you could go for a Tom Hardy. I don't think that's the right call.
Well, especially now that he's Venom. You know what I mean? Like, and that's even the same universe, even though they're not. You know what I mean? Yeah. But still, it would confuse people. Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
We're so simple. We're simple people, man. You can't.
Simple-minded.
You can't
I saw another article that was like, of course the Netflix movies were never connected. The tones were completely different. Quit it with the tones. Tones can be different. There's been violent Punisher comics that are in the same universe as just Spider-Man dicking around, having fun, and doing light stuff. The tones can be different, and they can still be in the same universe.
You know what?
Cut that shit out.
You know what Twitter I think you really like?
Huh?
Clickbait fail. It's just people will. This account retweets a clickbaity title and will answer yes or no or cut it out, and it's very funny. It's super.
I probably would enjoy that.
One of them was is new like Riverdale actor or something like, is he gonna be the new Batman? It was like no.
Yeah.
It was like no, that's not gonna be. There you go.
Quick thought. No.
Cheers.
Cheers to our healthy brown drinks. We pick drinks that are brown. Have you thought about that?
Yeah.
Because we grew up with them, so we don't think about it. I never thought about it, but they're brown.
Yours is sugar, and I know there's brown sugar.
No, there's not sugar in there. There's fake sugar. Diet Coke, come on.
Still, best ad from Coke is, shut up, okay? We're drinking Diet Coke.
It's weird. The Diet Cokes are... I'm bummed that we're not recording any of this. This is just for you Patreon people. This is
for you guys.
It is funny because the new Diet Coke ads are basically like, whatever.
Yeah. Because the Coca-Cola is
I'm drinking it because I like it, not because it tastes good.
For some reason, everyone's like, no, when you drink Coca-Cola, it's like a goddamn amusement park shoots out of your chest. Like, that's the fun part about Coke. But Diet Coke, it's like, leave me alone. I'm even drinking Diet Coke. Sure, I'm still having McDonald's later. Yeah. Let me have my Diet Coke.
I want to have, listen, I had waffles for breakfast. There's syrup in that. I got to conserve my sugar intake.
Oh,
you know what
the
I mean?
new Good Place. You're going to dig. They really explore that new idea that they...
Good. Because I really liked what they did with it.
And a couple characters that have been off for a few episodes, back. Really cool.
Cool. Dig it. Should we start?
Yes, let's kick it off.
3, 2...
I'm glad that car went by right when we were... I actually had something that I was going to do for the intro.
Yeah.
But I want people waking up... Here you go. You're waking up Monday morning.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe you slept on the wrong side of the bed. Oof. Not good. Coffee was a little cold. Probably the wrong little brew.
Gross.
Uh-oh. The kid didn't... He put an empty milk carton back in the fridge, and so you didn't get to have your cereal.
The kid.
Oof.
Yeah.
But now you're in your car, you're in a train, cab, maybe some sort of
automobile,
machine, and you're like, at least we got Only Stupid Answers to have a solid intro. And boy, I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna tell you, folks,
we did so.
Really whiffed it right out the gates. But welcome to Only Stupid Answers, the best dang podcast to put your moist little ears into, at least this morning. You know, guess what? You're in the pits right now. You're at the bottom of the curve, and we're moving our way back up. And we're gonna be scooting up that curve throughout the episode because we're gonna be talking about Glass, M. Night Shyamalan's newest installment to the Unbreakable series that we didn't know was happening until it did. Until it did.
Yeah.
And we did a review for this, a little intro before we get into all of our business and whatnot. We did a little spoiler-free quickie review for our YouTube channel, and I've never seen more divided comments that I will be reading later. It's literally one comment will come in super positive, like way more positive than we are, and then the other one is critics are shills and they're paid by the devil and Putin. And it's
exactly.
Like, whoa.
I'm going to be honest. I'm not surprised that people had a negative reaction to this movie, even though we enjoyed it. I am surprised at how divisive it is. Like, just genuinely surprised. For those that don't know, people just tuning into this podcast, I'm DJ Woldridge.
This is Sam Basher.
And we like to talk about movies,
TV shows,
comic books,
video games,
supernatural sometimes.
Ooh, we did a few of those. We talked about dreams.
We did talk about dreams.
And how to make them come true.
Spoiler, you can't. So that's what this show is about. But like Sam said, today we are talking about Glass. But before we dive into that, we always like to start each episode diving into what we're into, just something we checked out this week, any other week, that we don't get a chance to talk about.
Mm-hmm. And also we get to, one of my favorite things to do every week is to mosey on down to the Discord. You can actually join our Discord server by going to patreon.com/onlystupidanswers for low as like $5 a month if you want to. Yeah. You can join our Discord and you can chit chat with everybody who listens to this, and there's just an amazing community over there that hopefully you guys enjoy. And if you've been on the fence about it, consider checking it out. It's very cool. But for everything else, Only Stupid Answers, go to onlystupidanswers.com. Little plug. What I'm actually into this week is Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I know it's been on the air for 6 years, but I finally watched it.
You're finally in.
And it started out okay.
Yeah.
I feel like okay is sometimes negative too. It's not like the bad okay. It was good.
Yeah.
And then I started getting into it, and then you have to hit that one emotional episode where it's like not like it's just tender. It's a little bit more of a character piece instead of like what's the big joke. And I was like, okay, I get it. It's good. There's good humor. And Andre, you know how to say his last name? Brower, thank you.
Yeah, it's spelled weird. I had to hear other interviewers
like Kenneth Braga. Yeah. It's kind of almost similar spelling. A few are different and less letters. Very important. But no,
but also similar letters.
Similar letters. Yeah. I get it. I get it now. I love the show. It's very entertaining, and I've been trying to watch like an episode a day, like before I go to bed, something like that, or like when I'm like making dinner or something.
Yeah.
But it's been tough. I'm watching this show. I'm shockingly watching really slow since our super shows are coming back.
Yeah.
Which so far have been pretty cool. Young Justice has been. Young Justice. I'm into every week.
Yeah. You should be checking out our reviews on YouTube for those, and for full spoiler reviews, go to Super TV Show, which is on our Patreon also. So for me, I checked out, I know they dropped 2 episodes of True Detective last week, and by the time this episode goes up, there will be a third, but I've only watched the first one, but I'm into it so far.
Nice.
I'm a little concerned in that it's a little too similar to season 1, like similar setting. I think this is Arkansas, where the first season was like Louisiana, right? That's right. You didn't watch it. Yeah, you didn't watch it. But it's a similar thing, and they're starting to play with like time and perception, which the first season did. Which I get it. Like the second season wasn't well received, even though I'm not as much as the first season, but I enjoyed it. So you want to get back to what people liked. So but I'm worried it's too similar.
Well, who was the combo in season 2?
The combo in season 2 was a pretty big combo. You had Colin Farrell, you had Rachel McAdams, and you had Vince Vaughn. They were the 3 main characters.
Colin Farrell's having his little Farrell-essence right now.
Yeah, then this was not part of this. Was not the best I've seen. I enjoy Colin Farrell too. This was not my favorite performance of his. I did like Vince Vaughn in it a lot, which kind of set me up for Brawl in Cell Block 99. Because he plays a crime boss in this, and Rachel McAdams was great, and my favorite episode of that. It wasn't as good as season 1, but there were a couple episodes that were like, oh, that's rad. You just had to get through a bunch of episodes that were, And also, the mystery was nonsense. I literally couldn't tell you, like, it was completely impenetrable, which was fine. Like, the mystery kind of took a backseat in season 1 to the characterization. So that was fine. In this one, it was like the mystery was a big deal, and it was just indecipherable. So that was a big kind of mess up on that one. But I'm excited for season 3. Mahershala Ali is, of course, great. There's a lot of little, really interesting, subtle acting. And it's interesting how they adjusted the story, because originally the role he was supposed to play was a white man, and he convinced the creator that he should be him. because he had family members that served this kind of role back in the 80s as well. So he had like family history with it. So you can see slight changes in the way people react to his character. Just to be candid, the racial stuff, I in the first episode at least, it's just hovering above the surface. That like nobody straight up mentions it, but little subtle interactions. Like there's my favorite little bit is Scoot McNairy plays the dad of these kids that have gone missing. And
that name is super
he's been
familiar.
in a bunch of stuff.
Great name.
Yeah, but he's a really talented actor. I think his breakout role was Monsters, the guy that would end up going to do Godzilla, his movie. Anyway, so Mahershala is trying to calm him down, and he puts his hand on his shoulder, and the dad looks at the hand, and then then there cuts to Mahershala looking at the hand. Like they both have like a silent moment of the dad being kind of uncomfortable with this guy just put his hand on his shoulder, but it's completely, nobody makes a big deal about it. It's just their looks. It's really good. So stuff like that, really into it. So that's really cool. I've also been listening to the podcast. The first episode dropped of the big one for us to live in LA. They're trying to help prepare us for when the giant earthquake hits. It's got me a little anxious a little bit.
I said this earlier this week.
Yeah.
I've recommended damn near
I know.
like 30 comedy, informative podcasts. And what's the first one, DJ? He's like, you know what? What is this pesky podcast stuff? I'm going to go download the most depressing thing I can find.
Here's the thing, Sam. You should know this about me at this point. I like to be prepared. So if you say, hey DJ, this is a problem, I gotta look into it because I don't want to be caught unawares. You know what I mean?
And exactly why I listen to My Dad Wrote a Porno, because if I go into a business meeting and someone gives me a business card and like it's like in some sort of promiscuous way, I could be like, oh, get out of here because I'm prepared.
I'm prepared. If I ever find out my dad writes a porno, I now know what to do.
Make a podcast.
Make a podcast about it. I know. See, you grew up in California, so you've been a part of this, and I knew about earthquakes. But I don't know. I thought the big one was like an urban legend. It's not. It's just not. So I do. If you live in Southern California, even though it is scary, look into it because there are ways to be prepared for just any kind of emergency. And it's good as somebody that grew up in a place with hurricanes and stuff like that. It is better to be prepared than unprepared. So it's a hassle, but eat your vegetables, do your chores, be prepared.
I should have an emergency preparedness kit.
Yeah,
you can honestly just buy it.
Yeah, I know, but it's not just a kit. Like you need.
There's more.
They recommend a gallon of water for each person in your household for at least 3 days.
The gallon.
They actually say 2 weeks, but like, let's be real, 3 days. Yeah. And like canned food and stuff like that. So it is stuff. It's like I'd rather be. I know it's a hassle, but for me, I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
It's like bringing the jacket when you go out to eat with your family when you're a little kid.
Yeah.
Never wanted to bring that jacket, but every time you put your hands into your shirt.
You know what? I just realized I was going to tell you a story from when I was a kid, and then I realized in a later episode we're going to be reading your fan mail, and it might apply to one of the questions.
There you go.
Yeah. So
no spoilers.
Store that nugget for just minutes from now, but for the audience, a couple months from now.
There you go. That's a fun little Easter egg, little payoff. Hopefully, if you all remember that little tidbit. But also, we watched the trailer for John Wick Chapter 3.
Yeah, Parabellum.
And the
Parabellum. Woof. Parabellum. Yeah, Parabellum is a gun term. I think it's a mechanism. Oh, people are gonna hate my guts.
Talk about the trailer. Yeah. I'll do a quick Google.
It's two terms. It means two things. One is gun related. Trailer. Fuck, man, it's everything I want. I love these movies. I love them so much. It's crazy how much I love them. God bless. I was talking about True Detective. Like there's like a crime renaissance in TV and comics right now that people are just making shit that I love. Same with action movies. Like there's just this there have been action movies forever, but we're now back in a place where they're real good. Like they were real, like the 90s were not great for action movies, but now we're back into like, oh shit, like Between the Night Comes for us, the Fast and Furious movies have hit in a renaissance.
Or the Raid and stuff.
The Raid, Mission Impossible movies have just been getting better inexplicably.
Parabellum is Latin for prepare for war, perfect for what this is, but it's also the name of certain types of guns and the cartridge for a handgun.
There it is. Yeah, so it's a good double meaning thing, but like there's guys on motorcycles and they all pull out katanas. I love it's almost like video games. You remember video games trailers like show off the new features? And I remember when Grand Theft Auto 5 came out, it's like, ooh, now there's gonna be animals around. Like this one has horses and dogs. Like for some reason when the dogs come out and attack people, I'm like, oh fucking cool. So cool.
I'll be honest, even though John Wick on a horse punching someone off a motorcycle, awesome. But when the dogs got involved, Halle Berry's cool. I'm a fan of Halle Berry, but I wasn't. It was fine, you know. But when they had the dogs, I was like, oh, this is actually the perfect way to end it. It's like dog dies first one, dog survives this one, dog gets revenge in the last one.
I don't think this is the last one.
Or if it's just the end of the story, maybe the story
because they've talked about like it's like as long as people keep seeing these, we'll keep making them. And it was kind of like, but what do you do after the setup? Because the setup for this one is lost. He broke the main rule, and now there's a 14 million bounty on his head, and so every assassin in New York is after him. Which in this world, every other person's an assassin. And so it's like, how do you top? And I was like, what if he has to lead? What if he becomes he like runs one of the Continentals, or he joins the High Table and he becomes like the guy? Like he was trying to get out, and now he's in charge of everything.
I'd be down.
I keep making them. I mean, like if this is how you want to wrap it up and you want to give it a good ending, awesome. Better to leave on a high note than like peter out. But also, I'll keep showing up.
Yeah, I hope I'll be there too. I still haven't watched the first one.
Do it. I mean, I think the second one's better. But
they have more money, more
money, and also it does a better job. My only critique of the first one is it takes a minute to realize that you shouldn't take this seriously. Like it almost seems like funny in a bad way, and then you realize, oh no, it wants to be heightened. The second one begins like they're panning down a building, and there's a Buster Keaton movie projected on the side of the building, like a big slapstick, like the cars falling apart around them, and it's like, yeah, that, but action movie. And so it's a good way, like, oh, I know exactly what this is now. You know what I mean? So it does a better job of like telling the audience what it is.
And the supporting cast, Ian McShane was in a scene with Lance Reddick. And Lance Reddick is one of my favorite actors. He's in Fringe, he's in Lost, he's in a lot of stuff.
He's in The Wire.
He's in The Wire.
I think that was kind of like his breakout role.
Yeah, and for me, I saw him in Lost first, and he plays a small, mysterious role. And then
of course he does.
He's in the J.J. Abrams realm of like things, so that's where he got the lead role in Fringe, and like that made me happy.
He also plays Papa Legba in American Horror Story, and he's great as that.
Really, that made me really happy to see, because he wasn't playing just like the straight guy. It was like super crazy. Yeah. Cool, you can do that too. But anyways, let's get into Glass, because there's a lot to talk about. Before we do that, though,
let's say hi to us. Let's say hi to us. Like go to patreon.com/onlystupidanswers to get more exclusive content from us. We do so many, like right now there are people watching us record this show live.
Cheers.
Early. We do Super TV Showdown where we talk about all the superhero shows. We have a comic book show where we talk about all that. I really like the stuff we do for Patreon. And it seems like I don't want to speak for them. It seems like the people that subscribe enjoy it as well.
So don't miss out. And there's new stuff. Ooh, we had a cool meeting today about stuff coming in the future. So if you want the early scoop, maybe check out Patreon. It's gonna take a while though, but if you're gonna get whoever finds out first, probably gonna be Patreon. I'll tell you that much. But anyways, let's get into Glass, may we?
Yeah, let's do that. So, a quick question though, for you. I wanted to know, because we did our spoiler-free review, and this is going to be where we dive into spoilers, and not to get too ahead of ourselves, but there may or may not have been a few twists in this M. Night Shyamalan movie. I wanted to know.
There was.
Yeah, there was. I wanted to know what your thoughts are on twists in movies.
Man, it sure was cool when he did this the first few times, and when we forgot that he did it, and then we went and saw movies, and he still got us.
He still did it. I read an interview with him for Vulture, which I recommended in our spoiler-free review, and I will recommend here because it was great it was really interesting to read a director that knew he had hit a rough patch and was really candid about it. Like, hey, this is what happened. And they asked him about the twist, and he's like, I just figured, I mean, I like to make thrillers, and twisting plots are part of thrillers. And my thing is, what if the audience found out when the character found out, instead of the audience being in on it and then the character finds out? What if we find out with the character? And I was like, I mean, it doesn't always work, but I do like that concept. Like, I think that's interesting. I think it's great. It's his twist specifically. Weirdly, before I saw Sixth Sense and Unbreakable, I knew the twists in both and it just enriched. I think that's the good twist when you can know and the movie still is great.
Sixth Sense kind of got ruined basically immediately for the entire world. Like that was a tough one. Unbreakable didn't get ruined for me for a long time because it was a lesser known M. Night movie.
It's people don't remember that it actually was not well received when it was first released.
Yeah, but when I watched it because I used to do some editing work for companies. Like, hey, if you guys are up and coming editors, you get like hired out by family friends who have their own companies. Like, can you do this trading video? Sure.
I mean, even if you're not an editor, like, hey, have you looked at an editing program once? Can you edit this for me?
You ever just clipped off the end of an Instagram video? You can get a job.
Do you own iMovie?
There you go. Of course you do. You have a computer. Yeah. No, I was working on that, and I just needed something on.
Yeah.
But wrong movie to pick because all of a sudden I got sucked into it because it was so good. Way late on that project because I needed to finish that. But I was watching it, and that twist got me because I'm like, I know something's up with Samuel L. Jackson. He's just so weird. Like, is he just weird just cause? And this is like the sidekick. It's like, no, there's something up. And the way they reveal that. So cool. And then rewatching it, god damn it, it becomes like, this dude's a bad person. Yeah. Like, he is.
Yeah.
But even in the interactions he's having with David, it's bad.
Yeah, and I think that's also a sign of a good twist in that all the information is there for you. It's not like suddenly coming out of nowhere. It's like, oh, by the way, this. It's like all that information's there. And it's one of those like, damn it, I should have known. But so that one got you. The first M. Night Shyamalan movie I saw in theaters when it released was Signs. And that twist was interesting when I was younger. Now, as an adult, that's probably my least favorite aspect of the movie. Because it makes, I like Signs.
I do too.
The twist is like, but what? How?
Yeah,
what?
yeah. It's how
but
did
the
she
movie's
get these?
cool. Like, could it have water?
That's
like,
it?
Yeah, that's it. Like, couldn't it just be sugar water or something? Like, if you mix water with this one thing, then it kills them? I don't know.
That part, the water being the whatever is fine to me.
Yeah.
Dumb for the aliens to come here since it rains.
Yeah.
But
like, it's a thing. Like, it's how most of us survive on this planet is because it rains every once in a while.
But that part was fine. It was the premonition part that the wife has, like, as she's dying. I was like, I get this is romantic, but I'm like, this is very specific. And that's the part I was like, The movie's really good, though. And that was my first movie as a kid seeing Joaquin Phoenix in something.
Yeah.
And I really liked him in it.
Yeah. And now he's like the best actor ever. You know what I mean?
And he went a little crazy in the middle when he was doing his music. Yeah. Have you ever seen that one interview with Conan? Super weird.
No, I didn't. But I did see the movie he made as the character version of him.
Is it good?
It was interesting. It is a little hard now knowing it was directed by Casey Affleck because it's like,
yeah, that's not fun. But also, her almost ruined a relationship for me.
Oh wow! Yeah. I mean, her is a great movie because I saw it in theaters and I was just so moved, and it made me feel really good. And then I own it and I watched it again, and the second time it made me really sad.
It made me feel both. It made me feel like
it should.
Is it like it was more the reason why it was like I had like a serious talk. I was like, do I know what love is? Maybe I'm too fucking young. I don't know what I'm doing.
I mean, that's a fair question to ask. Yeah. Any person, that's a fair question to ask yourself, and it makes sense that movie would make you like look at
all relationships,
every relationship ever.
It was anyways, we can talk about her. Actually, I would love to talk about her for Valentine's Day. What's the saddest love story we can find? Because that's a great one. But when it came to Glass, when Split came out, we have a review out which you probably have listened to, and for we did it on the podcast. Crazy, we've been doing it for that long.
Yeah.
And it was just,
I think the Split we did was one of our first Patreon. No, it was a bonus episode we did.
We wanted to do 2 episodes a week, and that was poo-pooed. That idea was poo-pooed by people above us. But that's fine.
Forget them. Now we have the Patreon, so we do
there we go. You guys get it. No, it was a pleasant surprise, but I had to like just keep my expectations right bare minimum because the visit was a fun surprise, but it's not a home run. It was just a solid movie.
Yeah, it's a solid movie. And then right before that, he did the pilot for
Beyond Pines.
Place Beyond Pines is a movie.
Wayward Pines.
Wayward Pines, and that first season of that show is really good, and he directed the pilot really well. So that was a good moment. And then Split was a pleasant surprise. I will say I did know about the twist before seeing it, unfortunately. Which it would have been so cool if I didn't know.
I didn't.
It would have been so cool.
But it's one of the coolest experiences in a theater for me. Like besides like Marvel movies where like everyone gets amped, you start cheering. That's always fun. Or Fantastic Fest, like action movies. That was like Wait, what the? Yeah. It was a fine. It's like how Unbreakable at the end. You have to change your perspective of the entire film. That one literally is the last possible second to change the entire film for you.
So spoilers for Unbreakable and Split, but I feel like at this point people know because if you've seen an ad for Glass. So Elijah Price, Samuel L. Jackson's character, it turns out to be he perceives himself because of his bone disease. That there has to be somebody out there that has the reverse of it, that's super strong. Which, God, I want to watch the movie again because it makes twisted sense. You know what I mean? For this
very sad person.
Yeah, and he finds him, and so he realizes his purpose in life is to be the bad guy. Like that's his goal, which is for him great because he just wants it to mean something. All the stuff he's been through, he just wants it to mean something. And now I'm feeling emotional just thinking about it. Anyway. Split is really interesting because this end of that, we realize it's in the same world, and it recontextualizes that because it is, I rewatched it before seeing Glass, it is an examination of being bad. And I like that, like it got a lot of heat for DID and its use of DID, and you've researched DID, and it's just in normal conditions it's very controversial outside of a movie.
The multiple personality disorder, take that term and just throw it in the trash because that's one crazy thing I read, just quick tangent, is that people used to go town to town and be like, hey, you might disassociate with reality more times than you think. You should come get checked. And it's like, yeah, you might have up to 5 other personalities and then you don't even know about it. It's like, they're not psychologists. Yeah. They're just doing it. And people started thinking about it that way. And then when re-examined by actual psychologists, they just help them kind of wrangle it in. Yeah. Some people might have legitimate or they disassociate so much that it's not a personality, it's just
thing. So it's a thing that kind of borders on pseudoscience with at least a common understanding of it, maybe.
It's been exaggerated a lot, and so that's why it's controversial, because it is a real mental disorder that has been used a lot to make people spooky, and that's why people didn't like it.
And something I liked about Split, though, is it's very, especially through the psychologist character, it's a very empathetic look at this person. And I think it uses, the way I perceive that movie is the way it uses the DID is the idea that a person is not just one thing. And so even though somebody can be a vile person, that's not necessarily all that they are. And so you look at somebody like Kevin, and he's got the Beast and the Horde, the Horde is 3 personalities that want to manifest this Beast, which is crazy amped up, steroided out Kevin, and they're kind of dominating all the positive aspects of Kevin. And so it's like, that's there, and Kevin's a bad person and he's done bad things. He eats somebody in that movie.
Yeah,
he eats 2 people in that movie. But that doesn't mean that's not all that defines him, and it's not that it forgives those things, but it does make it complicated.
And that's one of the best parts of why I like that movie so much.
People are complicated.
People are complicated, and Glass, just getting a little ahead, you get to explore more and actually get to talk to Kevin more.
Yes.
Which you only get about 15 seconds of Kevin in his own movie.
And he's not super happy.
No, Kevin, he's not, because he kind of doesn't know what's happening.
Yeah.
He kind of does, but he kind of doesn't, but he's choosing. It's clear. In Split, it was that maybe his mental illness has caused it so that he actually doesn't know what's happening anymore. Yeah. But in Glass, you find out that he does know.
No.
And he wants to be so far away from his own world that his body has manifested all of these things. And he's just a scared kid that doesn't excuse any of the things he's done, but he needs help.
Yeah, and both in Glass, like both Elijah and David are severely wounded by life, and Kevin by the people that raised him, and Elijah just by his physical condition and how the things that damage you can really jumble you up inside and make you. And again, it doesn't. It's this fine line because it doesn't excuse any of it, but it reminds you that people are people, and there is an argument to be made for having empathy for even the people you hate the most, which I think is interesting. And I think it's interesting that stealthily Split was like our first real supervillain movie. Like before, we're getting a Joker movie this year, but before that, you had Split, and it is a supervillain movie. And honestly, I mean, I haven't seen anything. I mean, we've seen images of Joker. We haven't seen a trailer. It might be the most empathetic look at like what makes a person bad.
Yeah, and maybe it doesn't excuse it. It's just like, this is how this person became this way. Doesn't mean everyone becomes this
sad.
way.
It's
sad.
Yeah.
And it should be. And because with Kevin, he thinks he's going to be important and okay, and if he's able to be seen, that means his pain's valid, and it does. And it's not how you don't get to do that. Like, you don't get to act that way in life, and it sucks that what happened to you that way, but this isn't the way to go about it. But anyways, Split was a wonderful exploration of that mental illness and the way he was able to, like, what peer meant to him and what, like, damage meant to him is completely flipped. Yeah. And that's why Anya Taylor-Joy, in the end, is the only reason she survived, is because
she's been through some stuff too, just like David has been through some stuff. And it's this idea of, like, the challenge, and this is also why Split makes a good villain movie, and so Glass as well, because in superhero comics, what brings out the best of our heroes, and it's being challenged either by some external force like a villain or whatever, and it challenges them to become better. I think in the best superhero stories, I think that's why Batman's villains are so popular, because they represent aspects of his psyche that he needs to overcome.
Condiment King.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect example. And that's what these characters represent. And David Dunn and Anya Taylor-Joy's character, who also has an alliterative name, and it is
Lois Lane.
No,
I'll look
sorry,
it up
I couldn't remember.
Yeah, you're right. I'll look it up.
And they are able to use their damage to become better people, and Kevin and Elijah kind of get lost in it.
Pulling up her name really quick. But getting into quick overview of what we thought of Glass. Yeah. We both left this movie, Casey Cook. That was
Casey Cook. Name. There it is.
We both left this theater relatively happy, honestly, and we enjoyed this, but it's been split basically down the middle when it comes to critics, leaning more towards the negative from critics themselves. Actually, can you check Rotten Tomatoes really quick for the audience score?
Changed.
Yeah, let's see how this has looked, because it would be interesting, because after we put this review up, it's crazy how split our audience has been over this movie. So Rotten Tomatoes, as of recording this, it's at 35 overall, 35%. The average score rating from those critics is 5 out of 10. Actually, that's not as bad. It's 35%, honestly.
Yeah, it's
just
50-50.
Right down the middle. And then the audience score is 79%, which I think is fair as well. Yeah. That's actually that's like 10% lower than what I'd put it, but I wouldn't be mad at someone saying a C+ for that.
Yeah, and honestly, that feels more accurate. Yeah, it's crazy how, and I wonder if it deals with the idea of expectations, just people's expectations for a movie like this. And I think you had the right idea where you're like, I'm going to go in and check my expectations at the door. And I kind of took that. I was like, I think that's good advice from Sam, and I'm going to do that as well.
Finally.
Yeah, so I'm going to
get you listen to the My Dad Wrote a Porno podcast in the next 2 years. Promise you.
So I check in your expectations at the door. And I liked an aspect I like about Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy is that he somehow made 3 different types of movies of essentially 3 different genres in one trilogy.
Yeah.
And that's these are 3 different movies. The one aspect they share is they are very fascinated with the psychology of these characters.
And this one most of all.
Yeah.
Even though you get that a little bit in Split, that's not the most important part besides, oh man, just props to James McAvoy. I was just thinking of his scene where he's sitting with a therapist in Split, and it's another personality
pretending
to be a flamboyant character.
Yeah.
That's all. But like, besides like M. Night Shyamalan's bad dialogue in that one scene, when you see James McAvoy's performance of that, it's incredible.
Yeah.
I want to read for a second before we keep going. I wanted to read some reviews from our comment section.
Yeah, bring those up.
About just critics in general.
Yeah, so if you saw our spoiler-free review, we both gave it positive reviews. I want to say we were both around 8.
8 out of 10, yeah. 7.9. Like it's a solid 8 out of 10, I think.
For me personally, I think I enjoy it the least of the 3, but I want to own all 3 of them. Like I own Unbreakable on DVD. I guarantee they'll make a Blu-ray set of all 3 of them. I'm gonna get it.
And by the way, you told me this like anecdote about like when it came to financing The Visit and getting it out there, it was basically impossible.
He took a loan out on his house. He was going to lose his house if The Visit didn't do well,
and it did. It did fine.
It did reasonably well. But he spent his money. He shot the movie. He showed it to distribute, like to different producers, and he's like, everybody's going to want M. Night Shyamalan thriller. I'm going back to basics. It's the thriller. Everybody's going to want it, and nobody did. And so he had this like it was an existential crisis. And it was cool in the interview because going back to that Vulture interview, he was talking about the idea of focusing on what you control. And so for him, he's like, I couldn't control how they reacted. So I just went back to the editing room and started editing more and made some changes. And then I realized because of the way the music worked, it didn't play like a comedy. And he saw it as kind of a comedy. And so he made those changes. And then he hooked up with Blumhouse, who has a similar view of things that he does, where it's like, hey, maybe if you don't spend all the money in the world on it, it can actually make that money back. You know what I mean? And now he has a very successful relationship with them. Like, I hope this is successful as well.
Any horror movie you've seen in the past 10 years is probably a Blumhouse movie. They also made Get Out, and I think that made them billions of dollars.
Yeah, that made them a lot. They also did Upgrade, which is not a horror movie.
Violent though.
Super violent. I can't recommend that one enough. It's so good.
But he did the same.
Aren't they Happy Death Day as well? And The Purge?
Yes. I think they're all kind of wrapped up in there. The Insidious, lots of those. But I wanted to bring that up, because him financing that movie, because he did the same thing for Split and for Glass. And so when you think about that, I think people thought the scale of this was going to be big, but Unbreakable and Split aren't big movies. They take place in locations that must have been so cheap to rent. Split takes place in maybe 3 locations.
The one that's probably the most expensive, weirdly, is probably Unbreakable.
Just because he had more to do. Like, they shot at a stadium, so that was easier. This takes place in a hospital parking lot.
Yeah, this movie primarily takes place in a psychiatrist's office, and I thought that was great. The big show-stopping number isn't any fight between David and the Horde. It's a scene where all 3 of them are being interviewed by a psychologist. And it's my favorite scene in the movie.
It's beautiful too. The cinematographer who worked on It Follows, worked on Split, worked on this. Yeah. God damn it, it's so good. So wanted to read the reviews or read the comments. So right off the top, 100 upvotes. If critics hate it, it's most likely going to be good. I don't know how that logic works.
No,
but that's
I don't either.
And then we get critics can't be trusted. Remember when they gave Last Jedi over 90%? By the way, we get a lot of Last Jedi hate. I know it's out there, and I know it's a little crazy compared to other movies, but there's a crazy amount of Last Jedi hate.
That's also one that's weirdly divisive. Like I personally didn't enjoy that movie, but the way it's divisive, it's like I mean, it's just another Star Wars movie.
It is.
Really.
Yeah, it's crazy how much people will rip that movie to shreds.
It's at the end of the day just another Star Wars movie.
And I have a feeling this movie is going audiences. Well, the movie going audience will buck against the critics on this one with a $20 million budget. It's almost a guaranteed hit regardless. Man, all the bad critics' reviews just make me want to see it more. Rotten Tomatoes gave Split a 76% and Unbreakable a 69%. Those fools. Lots of those. Yeah. But then it starts splitting like the way we walked to lunch. And in that span, I got 2 comments. When it comes to playing with expectations, oh no, this is a Last Jedi comment.
You found the other Last Jedi comment.
His Ruin Johnson instead of Ryan Johnson.
Cool.
Pretty good.
Wow.
Went to see it last night. Loved it. Funny, great action, and a villain I didn't see coming. It's worth the wait. Then literally a minute before that, this movie sucked. Jackson played his character very well. McAvoy killed it in a few cool parts, one twist, and that was it. They all... spoiler.
Yeah. And then that is a weird one, though. Like, the 2 lead characters did amazing, but the movie was like, wait.
Again... 2 hours before that, saw this movie last night, and I was disappointed. And also, I watched this film. The critics are effing wrong. I enjoyed it, A-. And then Rotten Tomatoes has no credibility whatsoever. By the way, we use Rotten Tomatoes incorrectly. You mentioned that this morning.
Yeah, so because the way they aggregate, I personally don't like it. The way they aggregate, they lump scores into positive and negative. That's why when you look at the average rating...
which is right below the big number.
Yeah, it's right below. That's the average score. So, like, if you gave it a C, or a C minus, that might be rated as negative. You know what I mean? But so it's just negative at that point. It's not like cumulative. You know what I mean? So it's just a weird way of doing stuff. I don't know if he ever did it, but Dan Murrell over at Screen Junkies, when I was over there, he's the one that opened my eyes to this. Like, he was really he's so smart about those things, and he had a whole a theory about it that he was talking about making a video, and I hope he does, because he's really smart movie critic, and he's really smart about stuff like that.
I think Rotten Tomatoes is a good website when it comes to kind of picking those movies, but it can't. If you still want to see something, go see it.
Go see it, because it's, again, like, also critical consensus is what we saw when we left. Everybody was talking to each other, so they were all kind of like feeding into their perspective of it. and they all come from a lot of times critics come from a similar place, like a similar, like grew up similarly, clearly have similar interests. And it's not to say they're always wrong. That's crazy.
Yeah. Also, critics aren't paid.
Critics love Black Panther, and I love Black Panther, so you know what I mean.
But really quick, critics aren't paid ever.
At least not that we know of. That seems crazy to me if that's the case.
Because that doesn't make a lot of sense.
No, it really doesn't.
Because, I mean, there's some critics that people read specifically.
Yeah.
So maybe, but really, that's just a big old conspiracy theory. They might invite you to dinner, but that's about it.
I mean, if they are paid, who do we call?
I would.
Because I will take that money. Please and thank you.
Just an email. Just one little email. I'll DM you. That doesn't matter. But I'm just reading more comments.
Yeah.
Here's your favorite one. People need to stop being suspicious of movie critics because, oh my God, they gave Last Jedi a high score. There's another Last Jedi comment.
Jedi. Oh my God.
Watched it last night. It was amazing. This movie is a piece of shit no matter how badly you wanted it to be good. I loved it. Fantastic film. I saw Glass Theory and enjoyed it. Movie sucked. Great review. Unbreakable is a great movie. Glass is horrible. It just keeps going back and forth.
Real quick, before we leave the Last Jedi train that we're on, apparently. Here's what bums me out about all the Last Jedi haters. I feel like they don't like it for the wrong reasons. You know what I mean? Like, I don't like it, but the reasons they don't like it are like bullshit. So it makes me feel weird for not liking it because it's like, I'm not with those guys, all right? I just like it because of other reasons.
And I enjoyed the movie, but I'm never, if someone says they didn't like it, it's like, okay.
Yeah,
like, I don't,
that's fine.
But also, I don't care about this stuff as much as other people. And I'm really not going to fight people when they say that they dislike a movie. Honestly, I don't have enough time.
What was it? Rose? Is that the new character they introduced?
Rose,
I loved her.
Yeah.
I thought she was great.
Her scenes?
Yeah.
Not great.
They don't like the movie, but I thought she was a great addition.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's her solo movie. Yeah, I said it.
Boom, let's make it happen. I wouldn't hate it. I'd go watch it.
Going back to Glass, some of the most incredible scenes were James McAvoy. I just wanted to talk about that for a second, just to kind of dive into it. I don't know how he's not in every movie. I don't know how he doesn't get offers for every movie.
It's interesting that I realized other than the X-Men flicks, he really does kind of like lower budget stuff, which is interesting, and I'm glad he does that. I'm glad.
This must have been a really cool conversation to have between M. Night and James McAvoy because it's like
apparently he pitched into him at Comic-Con.
That's awesome.
He bumped into him at Comic-Con. He's like, "Oh, you're my guy."
Oh, very cool. Because in this movie, there's so many takes that are just actually we've been pretty good about spoiler free for this entire thing, which I'm really proud of. We're doing pretty good. We'll get into some spoilers in a little bit, but like we're still pretty open to anyone who wants to listen to this. There are so many scenes in this movie that don't cut from him. They cut from David, they cut from Elijah, they cut from Sarah Paulson, but not James McAvoy, and that makes me so happy.
Yeah,
because
there's a specific scene that I want to discuss when we get into spoilers.
Oh yeah, no, we can get into it if we want to. I'm just saying, it's just like the one scene that I personally love is right when he gets captured in the cell, and we find basically there's a MacGuffin that can make him switch between his personalities when he can't decide. Like he doesn't get a call, so we get to meet a bunch of new ones. Which one of my favorites are twins, and I don't have any idea
how that works.
Who cares? Like, and you just get to see them really quick about who's on the side of the Horde, who's on the side of Kevin.
And it's interesting. Some changed from split. Some flipped sides.
Yeah, but then you mentioned one of them very specifically. I'll just say Dennis. If you guys can even, I couldn't remember a lot of these. Yeah. Dennis was a pretty bad dude, all things considered. Yeah.
Dennis is not great.
But he had a change. He's like, you know what? Maybe eating people is like
is my limit.
And fair. Yeah, fair point.
Fair point. So let's go. I think we should go into spoilers.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's go into spoilers. But before we do that, let's say hi to some friends of ours that left 5-star reviews on iTunes, which if you could do that, take some time. If you enjoy this podcast, go to iTunes, leave a 5-star review. We love to read them. Sometimes we'll read them on the show, but we do read all of them. So we've got this one here from Ben Jacob 22. He says, new favorite podcast. I discovered this podcast because my friend Austin Dodge was on this podcast.
Nice. Well, thank you, Ben Jacob.
Austin Dodge, one for the eye.
One for the eye on Twitch. This one's from Troy Shermer. Boy, I love this podcast more than life. That's very true. That's very true.
So let's go into spoilers. One of the scenes I really liked is, for me, the movie takes a minute to kick in the gear, but when it does is when Elijah finally enters the picture, because he's supposed to be drugged out of his mind, catatonic. If we're in spoilers, he's not. Shocking, he's not.
He hasn't been forever.
Yeah.
Basically.
So they really play up the super genius aspect of him. And there's a scene where he goes to meet Kevin, and Kevin, he's flipping on the light until he can get to somebody that'll help him get to the Horde. Mm-hmm. and it's a single take where it goes from Kevin to Elijah to Kevin to Elijah.
Oh, that's what he was doing? I thought he was just trying to mess with it just to get it off. Yeah, I thought that's what it was.
James McAvoy is flipping these characters, and I'm like, oh my God, this is so impressive. And my favorite thing is in Split, we're introduced to a guy that's like super book smart, like he's talking about Genghis Khan and whatever. And they get to that guy who's now on the side of the Horde, and he's like, what they don't understand is this thing, and Elijah knows what he's talking about, and like cuts him off. He's like, no, I'm aboard. And it's a great little character moment of reminding you how smart. It's just seeing them connect on that level. It's like, that's cool.
Hey, talking about the psychology of it, Sarah Paulson brings up a really great point about Dennis, because I love Hedwig. Hedwig, because it's like he's the 9-year-old, and it's she's like, you're always 9. You don't get to be an adult. Like, you never get to grow up. And he's like, and you could see it, because also that's like really dark. That's a really depressing thought. And then Elijah knows how to manipulate him. He knows how to turn the screws. It's just like, yeah, you get to have the perspective that we all want on life forever. That's what, I mean, also, who doesn't want to be a kid all the time? Like, who doesn't want to turn back the clock and not have responsibilities? Hedwig is that part of Kevin. And I love that, like, M. Night found that when he was writing this character. It's amazing. And you get that during the scene of Hedwig. Also, Hedwig's kind of just really fucked up because he's the one okay with the Horde, right? Like, he's a bad person.
He's the bad person. And apparently, it intrigued me in Split because they say Hedwig is the one personality that can just take the light at will, which the light is what they call being in charge of Kevin's body. He can just take it at will, even though he's not theoretically the leader of the personalities. And he is the one that gives it to the Horde that allows them to start doing their shenanigans to get the beast. And also they say Hedwig is 9, but the first personality that showed up was Dennis when he was 6. And so I'm like, why 9? Mm-hmm. And now watching this movie, I think 9 is when Dad left. And so that's when Hedwig kind of became a thing.
Yeah, and I like the idea that, like, since it has to kind of go back to Hedwig, who's in charge, he's one of the first personalities. Well, Dennis is the first one, but it's like Hedwig's one of the first personalities. And I like the juxtaposition of, to get to the Horde, you have to go back to the initial personality, like the point of view Kevin was at when he wanted to disassociate the most. Dennis wanted like order, and it's kind of like a reflection of his mom, and so is the older woman personality, which is basically his mom. But Hedwig is what Kevin was, and the Horde is the culmination of, or the Beast is the culmination of all of the fucked up stuff that's happened to Kevin and in his own mind. And I love that. Also, God damn it, how do they make James McAvoy look so intimidating, even though he's like 5'5"? Like, I'm not judging height. It's just like when he becomes the Beast, he's the same height. I can see that, but I'm intimidated by his size.
There's a scene.
It's just like traps, right? Like his like his crazy Ninja Turtle shoulder muscles that come out.
I think there's a scene where he flips a cop car, and I'm like, I buy it.
Yeah,
I'm into it.
Because he's kind of huffing a little bit. Like, he's like huffing and puffing. It's not like easy. It's not like a Superman flip. And you get David's the same way too, which I really like. When they fight, I love all the sound cues and the way that they capture it from the point of view. I heard some people criticizing that they use that too much. Don't give a shit. You got more point of view of the Beast. It's like all I'm picturing is I'm walking down a dark alley. That guy gets me. And I'm like, this is fucking terrifying. Capture what that would feel like if I was... Make a VR experience of just that fight, but from the Beast point of view, I'm like, yeah, that'd be absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, I would not be into that situation. One moment, now that we're into spoilers, that I was not sure I was on board with, but by the end, once we get to the twist, there's a scene in the final big fight outside of the hospital, which I thought was really cool. There's somebody shoots David Dunn. No, shoots Kevin. And the way it pans across, so you see this prominent 4-leaf clover tattoo. I'm like, uh-oh.
I don't know what this is.
Like, but it's clearly something. Mm-hmm. And then we see it on Dr. Staples, who is the psychiatrist that's dealing with all of them. And turns out there's this like secret organization that has been keeping this powered people under wraps, so they just don't upset the balance of everything. And it's like, could this be too much? Because it's all pretty grounded, and then that happens. You're like, wait a second. But it turns out it is its own superhero universe.
I like that, because at first I was the same one, because they keep asking throughout the movie, why are we the only ones? And that's an important question that everyone's asking. It's like, are you serious that the only 3 people in this entire thing are just Samuel L. Jackson, old Bruce Willis, and James McAvoy? It's like, no, there's a bunch. My theory is every character from an M. Night Shyamalan movie is a superhero, including the kid from The Sixth Sense, and they took him out. They took him out. I know they did. They 100% took him out, and now he's a ghost that can see ghosts, and now he's got to find someone to get back. I'm seeing a Sixth Sense Part 2. I'm definitely it's coming.
It's set in the universe of Glass.
Yes, it can happen. And he haunts Sarah Paulson's character.
There you go. She's still around.
I wouldn't mind one more movie where it's like, now that everyone's coming out, they're having their coming out party of being a superhero or villain or whatever. Can I see like a few options? Like, you had the smart guy, strong guy, fast guy, whatever, and super thick skin guy. Anybody got lasers in their eyes? Like, just, can anybody fly?
I'm sorry, real quick. Do any of you have lasers in your eyes?
Just raise your hand now if, like, by accident that happened and you've repressed it. Just one guy. There's got to be one person that, like, can breathe water.
That one, the opposite of David, because he struggles with water.
And I like that they explored what that came from. I like that idea where it's like, and it maybe psychologically that happened, and that maybe spurned his, his powers manifesting, possibly. Yeah. That's a way you could go down one avenue.
Yeah, my only real critique of this movie, and now that I remember the budget, it might have been a budget reason why that we didn't see more of this character. I was a little bummed that David, of the 3, gets kind of sidelined. Because the big appeal is seeing him go up against the Beast, and you do see that, but I don't know. I wanted more of that dynamic, but this is like Split. This is kind of more of a villain movie. Like, it's called Glass. It's Elijah is actually theoretically the one that gets the win out of all of it, and so it's in the main song. It's kind of, again, I compared it in our spoiler-free review. It's like the Joker in The Dark Knight. It's like, well, of course you got those actors playing those characters. One of them's playing 24 different characters. Yeah, of course they'd kind of take over the movie.
Yeah, you can't. I'll say that's my critique as well, minus some M. Night Shyamalan dialogue. Also, the fact that it's like, Unbreakable came out when comic book movies are still niche, and that's kind of why it didn't do well. Like, if Unbreakable came out 2009, boom, perfect. Yeah. 2010, ooh, you're sitting pretty.
It's weird. It feels like a response to movies that didn't come out till 9 years later.
Yeah, which, whatever, you know. But there's a lot of dialogue where it's like, it's now the variant issue where the heroes team up with the villain, and they change sides, and it's like, what? Like, what are you saying? And it's that M. Night Shyamalan dialogue where it's like, it's heavy exposition. Like, one line that, like, Sarah Paulson said, because it's just straight up dumb. It's just a dumb line. She's like, they're headed to the something building, the tallest building in the city. We gotta get them, or something like that. It's when she described it like no one knew what the fuck anyone's talking about. This building has more advertising than most movies. Everybody in Philadelphia knows
about
this building. I don't know any buildings in Los Angeles, but if I lived in Philadelphia when they built this, everyone knows. And the line is the Osaka building, the tallest building. We got it, M. Night.
I did like, there was in one of those ads on the cover, it's like a marvelous achievement. I'm like, I dig it. I also like all the building up to, like, they're going to go fight this building, and they never get there. And they were never supposed to get there. And I love that. Because that. That's not what this is about. This isn't about, are they going to have the big battle on top? And I wonder, it's weird that critics would expect this. You'd think this would be more of a general audience thing. But I wonder if there's that expectation, like, yeah, I want to see him get to the giant tower and have the big fist fight on the tower. Because it's like, that's not what any of these movies have ever been. Ever. Of course they don't make it to the tower. Did you actually think they were going to? Because I was sitting there going like, they're not actually going to get to this tower, right? Because that's crazy.
It felt like it was losing it a little bit when they were saying that, even though, I'll be honest, kind of wanted it. I did.
I wouldn't have hated it. I'm just not surprised they didn't get there.
It did, but I could get why audience members would be upset or annoyed, because it's like you teased them and then you didn't give them what they wanted. Also, now we're in spoilers. Everyone's dead. Everyone's fucking dead.
I wonder if that's another reason why it's divisive, because it is it's actually a downer ending. Like, everybody died. The main character of Unbreakable gets drowned in a puddle.
Yeah, that's it. In a parking lot. In a gross parking lot. He doesn't get to do anything, and he dies in front of his kid. Like, it's tough.
It's dark, and our supporting cast gets the opportunity to blow the lid off the whole thing, and hopefully there will be more heroes. And again, now that I think about it, I'm talking about, I do like the idea that no, this is 100% a superhero world that just has been suppressed to be ours.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's so cool. Two other just critiques. I don't like that we went to a magical costume room and Mr. Glass came out with a monogrammed little lapel pin.
I like the costume other than the monogram pin. It's like, that might be too much.
And it was an ironed shirt that he got in a box after 19 years. Yeah. That thing has a smell to it. And that Anya Taylor-Joy's character is confusing.
I've heard other people talk about that. Let's go into that.
She straight up saw this man that she can maybe understand emotionally, like we were supposed to contemplate that, you know what, he might have good elements to him, but he's overall a bad guy. What we see in Glass is that she almost kind of forgives him fully for eating two girls in her class. She didn't like him, but he's a cannibal. And like that's the part where it's kind of hard to get. Like, he's strategically now hunting down women, like young girls in the city that he deems unworthy for whatever reason, and murdering them, eating them.
Yeah.
Awful. And I didn't see enough of her reconciling that or figuring out if she's okay. Maybe like she wants to see him get better and can see that part of him, can see like how damaged he is. But in Glass, you don't get that.
Maybe it's because I rewatched Split right before seeing this, and because I understand what you're saying. For me, it worked. I guess because in some ways she's kind of a audience surrogate, so she likes the aspects of Kevin that I like and I feel bad for. But also, I think she connects with. She doesn't like the Beast or the Horde and what they're doing, but she connects with the damaged person underneath because she saw the videos of the personality. She knows what's going on with him. And so for me, it made sense that she would have a connection with, considering the stuff she's gone through, this other wounded person, and maybe trying to resolve that within herself. So it didn't throw me off, even though I understand what you're getting at.
I could see, like, in the last scene of Split, you see him come to the realization that she's broken.
Yeah.
And connect with her. He was still hunting her down like an animal. So like I can understand if you wrote this down and you made a chart of her emotional journey, yes, you could see where she'd end up. I felt like I didn't get enough of that to understand. I like seeing David's son a lot more. I like the same actor. I think I've seen him in stuff too.
Yeah, and he was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. He played the Strucker kid.
He did.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah.
So he's been in a couple of superhero things. That made me happy seeing him in this, and also seeing them team up. Weird meme joke that lasted for a long time. Salt Bae, good for them being as timely as they possibly could making this movie. But
I was also surprised with this and Split how funny they are.
Oh,
like some really good jokes. Oh, and my favorite M. Night Shyamalan
there you go.
Cameo, because he always makes the cameos, and some are better than others. But they tie in his cameo in Split. Is of course the same character he played in Unbreakable. Unbreakable, he's one of the people that David Dunn touches and perceives bad stuff. Like he's doing some drug shenanigans in the bathroom at the stadium. So he talks about, so the security guy is at their security company. The security guy from Split, he runs security at the psychiatrist's home.
That's
at the building she lives in. Mm-hmm. He keeps track of the cameras. And they have a little fun, very wordy exchange in that movie. Yeah, and then he's in this and he talks about, you might have seen me at the stadium. I had a rough pass. And it's like, that's insane. Yeah. He went through the legwork to connect the two characters.
And one of the best jokes is like, I think I'm going to go for a walk. No, I don't think so. I think it's going to start raining. He's like, that's fine. I'll bring a coat. Dad, I don't think you should go on a walk right now. He's like, just let him go on a fucking walk.
Let your dad go on a walk.
Okay. He's like, what's wrong with you?
So that was good. That was fun. And again, it's mostly the performances of Samuel L. Jackson and James McAvoy. This is their movie. Sarah Paulson's great because she's always great.
She genuinely made them doubt and made me doubt, even though I know by the end they're going to fight in a parking lot. So it's like, it's not.
Yeah.
But for a second I was like, maybe they've just, they manifested this. Like, it's like not real. It's just they forced themselves. It's mama saving baby under the car. That strength. And it's like, maybe. And like, it's just adrenaline that's like heightened just because of who they are.
Yeah.
They got me. They actually got me.
And I got to say, at the end of the day, when it gets down to what I would say is the theme of this movie, which is the idea of like believing yourself. And when they talk about the idea of like allowing us to be superheroes, it's like, because the idea of believing in yourself, pushing yourself, being better is is crazy. The world's hard. You know what I mean?
Also, fun thing, I've been listening to a lot of podcasts about like the psychologists have been studying how different cultures kind of talk to themselves and like how we enforce things. And it's like America really hates itself a lot. Like Americans hate themselves a lot. Not hate. It's that we don't like to let ourselves have fun a lot. We don't like to let ourselves like, want to follow your dream. What's every movie ever say? Don't do that. Except for the end, the one hero that's like gets to make it. But for the rest of life, everyone's kind of like, don't do that. And that's a repeated thing. And that could be an interpretation of this ending where it's like, hey, maybe just cut yourself some slack a little bit.
Allow yourself to be super. And that idea, Elijah's goal to find personal meaning, as messed up as it is. And that's the other thing, is I like that it is a positive message. It's just the delivery system is dark. Finding purpose for yourself. And I personally find that very meaningful. And allowing these characters to do that. I found the journey that these 3 movies took me on to be personally meaningful for me, so I enjoyed them.
Me too. Sorry, I was trying to yawn when you were talking and I ran out of time. And one more little prop to M. Night and the team. I haven't cringed so hard in a movie since Hereditary, when Elijah falls on his knees and you can hear all the bones breaking. Boy, that was, even when Kevin hit him twice, that was bad. Also, Kevin's whole, like, the way the beast, like, figures it out, how he internalizes it, he's like, thank you for making me so I can protect Kevin, but you're not okay to be around Kevin anymore. And it's like, weirdly, he's okay with what happened, even though he's not. I love that line, but him falling on just his knees, and you can just picture his kneecaps just breaking apart like glass. It's the movie title.
The other one that it didn't make me, because the payoff wasn't as brutal, but when flashback to young Elijah, when he gets in that whirly gig thing, you're like, no, Elijah, don't do it. Don't do that.
Because he thinks he's so smart. He thinks he can do it.
It's some things you can't outsmart. He didn't learn.
He did, though, somehow, based on computer knowledge from 2001, figure out how to stream a closed-circuit video to the internet. Mm-hmm. To emails.
He's a super genius.
He is. That's
his power.
Confusing. And no one ever shook his wheelchair and heard all those pills rattling around there.
He would have broken all his bones if he did that. Oh, the other one that got me is when that guy looks like he's going to drop the flashlight on his legs. Also, props to this movie, just going into all that, making you feel really bad for a character and then reminding you they're the bad guy, because they show that flashback of Elijah and you're like, oh, poor Elijah, and then he slits a character's throat.
That one really got me.
And we like that guy. That guy's been nice to Elijah. He's a nice guy, and he slits his throat and you're like, fuck you, Elijah.
Yeah, bad guy. I want to, but ending this episode, I just want to say I'd recommend the movie, but it's small scale. That's what these movies are. And I can't reiterate this enough. Go into movies just blind. You're going to have your expectations. What do I want for Avengers Endgame? I want to have an epic ending, but sticking the landing so fucking hard, and like this is a good example for a lot of people. Go in to these movies with little to no expectation and just try to enjoy yourself. That's at most, and point your compass towards enjoyment, and you'll have a good time. I'd say 70% of the time.
Amen to that. Thank you guys for joining us. If you want more about the podcast, go to onlystupidanswers.com. You can find us on social media, on Twitter at onlystupidanswers.
Yank out the vowels from stupid, but most importantly, patreon.com/onlystupidanswers, because that's how we keep the lights on in this place. Please and thank you. So please check that out. Let us know what you think of Super TV Showdown, and we'll see you guys next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Caitlin, this isn't scary. You can see this.
It's a little scary. It's a tiny bit.
See it. You can see it. I believe in you. Thank you guys for joining us. We're going to do another one like now.
We'll be right back.
Bye-bye.